order to add powerful features to your website, you need to use a powerful programming language, something stronger than HTML and CSS. The mainstay language for designers in that department is a language called JavaScript. Now, JavaScript is fairly complicated to master, at least for most people. But today there's a very easy way to incorporate hundreds of functions from JavaScript, and that is by downloading a framework language called JQuery. Now, if you go online, you will easily be able to download the latest version of JQuery and insert it into your home page. Now, where is this file inserted? Always at the bottom of the page. You would expect it to be in the head section, but it's actually better to insert it just before the closing body tag. What this ensures is that your page loads before the JavaScript functionality is loaded. Now, you can make a link directly to a file which you've downloaded, or an even better way is to simply provide a link to the online version of the latest jQuery file. Now, that jQuery file, by the way, always contains the words MIN in its reference. And the MIN stands for minified. You don't want to download the full version of jQuery because that's a lot of it'll have a lot of functionality that you really aren't going to use. So generally we use the minified version. Anyway, here's a JavaScript declaration that is linked directly to the very latest file of jQuery, the minified version. The nice thing about this particular line of code is you'll always have the very latest version of jQuery, and it's constantly updated on a daily basis. Now, what does this do for your web page? Well, if you will look, once we've incorporated this link, either directly to our file or to the reference online, all of those functions are now available to you for your web page. Here is the jQuery file that I've just linked to, and as you can see, it's a different programming language, JavaScript, and it is very complicated. This particular file contains hundreds of functions that are now available to us to use to add features to our web page just by referencing the name of that function inside this file. So I'm going to go back to source code, and we have now installed jQuery. Now that we've added the power of jQuery into our web page by making a JavaScript link to the latest minified version of jQuery, we can also add a thing called plugins. Plugins are additional jQuery files made by individuals and shared with the public, sometimes at a cost and sometimes free. And these plugins allow us to add even more functionality to our web page, specific functionality to your web page. Now, you can research jQuery plugins and you will find there are hundreds online. What I have done is in my support folder, I downloaded several plugins. They usually come downloaded in a zipped file format. All you have to do is open up the zip file, get to the core file, and here you will see the plugin. And notice in this particular version, this is any stretch, and in this particular jQuery version, you'll see a minified version and a full version. I would always recommend the minified version for 99% use in general web pages. So what you'll do is take the minified version, copy it, move it out of the zipped file in the support folder, and simply paste it into your scripts folder. And I would repeat the process with as many plugins as you want to use. Of course, keep in mind that the more plugins you load, the slower your page will download. So you want to keep it a little bit to a minimum. As you can see here, I've moved two plugins, jQuery plugins, from a zipped downloaded folder in my support folder into my scripts folder of my project folder. I've downloaded transify-min and anystretch.min. Now, both of these files, of course, end with an extension .js, which means it's a JavaScript file. I'm going to show you one in particular that's a little more complex, one plugin that's a little more complex. And if I move to my support folder, I'm referring to the Coin Slider plugin. And if I get to the core of this, there's actually several files that I have to load. I have to load a JavaScript file, a coinslider.min file, and a coinslider CSS file. Now the CSS file, I'll copy that CSS file and I will put that into not my scripts folder but my styles folder. I'll paste that in, and now I'll go back to the support folder and go to CoinSlider, and now I'm going to copy the CoinSlider JavaScript file and the CoinSlider separate JavaScript file. This is a JQuery file and this is a JavaScript file. I'm going to put both of those files into my scripts folder as well. Now we have to connect all of these files to our home page. We have them in our scripts folder, but now we have to connect the plugin to our home page. It's very, very easy to do. On our home page, we have to make a reference to each of those plugins. An easy way to do that is simply copy this line of code that is already connecting us to our main JQuery file. So I'll just copy that line of code. I'll paste it in again, and this time where it says source, I will point it to the direct source. And one of the sources we used was a thing called transify-min. So I'll type in here, it's in our scripts folder, so I'll type in scripts / and then the name of the plugin, transify-min, which stands for minified. And this is very important. The file actually ends, all of those plugins always end with a .js in addition to the title that might show up in your folder when you're looking at it. So if I refresh my screen, you'll see that I've now attached the transify-min.js into my source code. I simply have to repeat that with all of the scripts necessary. I've completed the process of making references to all of those plugins. The very first line, if you'll look closely, the very first line is making a reference to the online JQuery file, the main JQuery file, the latest version that is out there. And this line of code will always give you the very latest version. I then am pointing to my scripts folder and referencing specific plugins that I've stored in my scripts folder, transify-min.js. By the way, all of these files always end with .js. Here's another one, scripts, jQuery.anystretch.min.js. And finally, the Coin Slider plugin. And the Coin Slider plugin is fairly complex, requires a coin-slider.min.js and a coin-slider.js. So it requires two scripts. Once you've added all of these things to your web page, you'll see that they're connected at the very, very top. That means that essentially all of those features and plugins are available for you to use. One last note. The Coin Slider plugin also requires a style sheet attachment. Well, that is done at the very top of the page. And way, way up here, I have linked all of my styles. And these are connected to various style sheets. So I'll simply copy that one line right there and add one more CSS external style sheet reference. It'll go to styles, but the actual CSS file is coin-slider-styles. And by the way, external style sheets usually end with .css, sometimes .cs. So now I have everything connected. If I click refresh, you'll see that our web page actually has quite a few files connected to it. The result is that we have a lot of power on this web page or available to us, and there's very few lines of code.